Let's travel through time, but the original body owes the bank 5 million. What should we do? Fortunately, Xuyao obtained the check.in system and received a beginner's gift package at the beginning. Ding, the beginner's gift package has been successfully opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a villa in Jiangjing Garden, worth 1 billion yuan in cash. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining 10% of the shares in the Forty Thieves Group. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining 1 billion yuan in cash. Watching the reward sent by the system every day, Xuyao felt like he had lost the reason to strive. Main characters: Xuyao, Tian, Xinrui, Wang Peng. Keywords of the novel. Super check.in system rewards 1 villa with no pop-ups at the beginning. Super check.in system rewards 1 villa at the beginning. Download the complete text. Super check.in system rewards 1 villa at the beginning. Latest chapters to read. Chapter 1. Super check-in system. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding, the super check.in system has been successfully bound. Please go to the Magic City Jiangjing Garden for check.in system. Xuyao's face suddenly showed a look of ecstasy. As an old bookworm, he is too aware of the system's capabilities. He thought he was going to play ball, but he didn't expect to get the system after a sharp turn. Previously, I owed the bank 5 million under the framing of that bastard boss Chin Chang. This is 5 million. For wealthy people, this 5 million may be very small, but as an orphan, he has to eat and drink for many years to earn it. Fortunately, the arrival of the system gave Xuyao hope, otherwise he would have to go all out to find Chin Chang now. Suppressing the excitement in his heart and no longer thinking about that bastard, Xuyao quickly called out to the system from the bottom of his heart. System, do you have any functions? Seeing no response from the system, he was a bit stunned. Is it because I opened it in the wrong way? So he quickly cleared his throat and asked loudly, System, are you there? Unfortunately, the system still hasn't produced any sound. Is this stuck? Xuyao felt very depressed in his heart. However, at that moment, he suddenly remembered the prompt from the system just now. Please go to Jiangjing Garden to sign in. Jiangjing Garden. He is too familiar with this place. It's not even an exaggeration to say that almost everyone in the entire demon knows this place. Because this is the only residential community established within the commercial circle in Magic City. Being able to build a residential area within this precious land of the Magic City commercial circle, it goes without saying that the prices here are definitely very expensive. In fact, it is also true that the cheapest houses in the entire Jiangjing Garden have reached a terrifying level of over 500,000 square meters. It is said that even at such a terrifying price, the houses here are in short supply. Even if you don't have a certain identity, you won't even be allowed to buy. However, thinking of his life-saving system, Xuyao quickly rode on the small electric donkey that had not been taken away by the bank and quickly arrived outside the Jiangjing Garden. Perhaps due to anxiety in his heart, he was forced out of the originally 1-hour journey for half an hour. Just as he was about to ride to the entrance of the community, a shiny head popped out of a nearby Porsche 9 model car. After seeing Xuyao, the person rubbed their eyes in disbelief before finally showing a mocking expression at the corner of their mouth. I said, Xuyao, are you planning to come to Jiangjing Garden to pick up porcelain? Xuyao, who was riding on the bike, frowned deeply upon hearing the sound and looked carefully for a while before remembering who the person in front of him was. This person is Wang Peng, a former college classmate with good family conditions, and can be considered a second-generation wealthy person. Unfortunately, the other party has a conflict with their original identity. The reason is also very funny, it is because the original person refused a girl's confession. Unfortunately, that girl was pursued by Wang Peng for a long time before, but she refused to agree. After all, Wang Peng is somewhat bald. And Xuyao has always been known as a male god in school. In this age of facial recognition, he will certainly become even more popular. After seeing Suzhou easily reject the girl he wanted, Wang Peng's psychology twisted instantly. From then on, he went against Suzhou in every way and had a never-ending momentum. Originally, Suzhou thought he would never see him again after graduation, but he didn't expect to meet him here today. I didn't even want the other person to start spraying feces at him as soon as he spoke. However, since the other party's malicious mockery, Suzhou naturally wouldn't have a good temper. Chapter 2. Opening the Beginner Gift Pack. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Taking a glance at Wang Peng's bald and shiny head, Suzhou's eyes rolled and his face was immediately filled with a smile. I said, Wang Tuzi, I haven't seen you for a while, your light bulb has turned on again. Wang Peng hates people talking about his hair the most in his life. Now that he heard Suzhou poking his scar, his face turned blue and white in anger. The shiny head, combined with the expression at this moment, looked like a light bulb that could change color. Directly made Suzhou outside laugh out loud. Wang Peng exploded and shouted loudly, Suzhou, what are you so proud of? Who among our classmates didn't know that you idiot was cheated out of 5 million? With these words, Suzhou's face instantly darkened, he let out a cold snort, and rode his bike to continue towards the entrance of Jiangjing Garden. Seeing Suzhou run away, Wang Peng in the Porsche car immediately laughed happily. Without mercy, he continued to shout at Suzhou's back, Suzhou, we are classmates anyway. I will help you today. As long as you can kneel down and kowtow to me, how about I give you 1 million? Suzhou sneered without looking back, why don't you take your 1 million yuan for a hair transplant? When you saw Suzhou talking about his hair again, Wang Peng was so angry that he almost vomited blood. However, when he saw the security guard at Jiangjing Garden, an idea suddenly came to his mind. Then he quickly shouted to the security guard over there, Security, security, come here quickly, someone is breaking into the community. Previously, he was mercilessly kicked away by the security guard just by asking a few questions at the door. Now that I see Suzhou also going to the door, he certainly won't miss this good opportunity. As soon as he thought about the other party's impending embarrassment, Wang Peng in the Porsche car burst out laughing with a pig's cry. Suzhou naturally saw that he heard Wang Peng shouting. But he didn't care, after all, the top priority was to activate the system. So, while watching the approaching security guard, he quickly ordered the system to sign in. Ding, successful check.in. Congratulations to the host for receiving the beginner gift pack. With the sound of the system, Suzhou finally breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. The system is real and it's not broken either. However, looking at the security guard who had already arrived in front of him, Suzhou felt a bit distressed. How should this be explained? What surprised him a little was that as soon as the security guard walked up to him with a serious expression on his face, his eyes suddenly stopped for a moment. Subsequently, the other party's originally serious expression turned into respect in an instant. So it's Mr. Su. Your property certificate and access control card have been processed, how about I bring them to you now? Suzhou subconsciously said, then you can go. As soon as he finished speaking, the security guard ran back unsteadily. And Suzhou, who reacted, was a bit dumbfounded. As an orphan working hard in the Magic City, where did he have the capital to own his own house? Moreover, if one really had a house, it would have been mortgaged by the bank long ago. And most importantly, how could this security guard know him? Just as Suzhou was lost in thought, the sound of the system came in his ear. Ding, the beginner's gift package has been successfully opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a set of Jiangjing Garden Villa, worth 1 billion yuan in cash. Now he finally knows what's going on. What surprised him secretly was that the system had the ability to change the memory of others. On the other hand, Wang Peng, who had originally planned to watch the play, suddenly became somewhat stunned and looked incredulous upon seeing this behind the scenes. Impossible. This is impossible. Chapter 3. Okay, I'll have a showdown. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After muttering to himself for a few words, Wang Peng, who was not willing to give up, quickly ran to Suja and questioned, "How did you do it? How did the security guard leave?" Suja lifted his eyelids, too lazy to pay attention to him. Wang Peng became angry and said, "Suja, what is your attitude?" With a sneer, Suja remained silent. His reaction made Wang Peng's face full of anger, but just as he was about to get angry, his tone softened again. "Okay, as long as you can tell me why the security guard is very respectful to you, how about I give you 100,000 yuan, he said to Suja. "The reason why I came to ask Suja is not only because he is curious, but also because he wants to go into Jiangjing Garden to meet someone." Just Wang Peng's tone full of generosity, Suja's heart was very unhappy. However, as the saying goes, if you have money, don't make a fool of yourself. This time, he can not only earn 100,000 yuan for nothing, but also hit Wang Peng hard in the face. He certainly couldn't give up on such a good deal. So Suja quickly pretended to be skeptical and asked Wang Peng, "Will you really give me 100,000 yuan as long as I say it?" His appearance made Wang Peng across from him feel proud. "Bullish what? Didn't you just give me some money and say it out?" He nodded arrogantly and said nonchalantly, "It's just a little bit of money. To deceive you. I, Wang Peng, can't even afford to lose face like that." Wang Peng did not intend to deceive Suja. After all, in his eyes, Suja was just a grasshopper that could be easily crushed. Seeing him say so, Suja nodded with a smile and said, "Okay, you can transfer the money in first." Wang Peng over there obediently picked up his phone. However, just as he was about to transfer the money to Suja, he suddenly asked with a skeptical expression, "You're not lying to me, are you?" Suja said somewhat displeased, "Just don't believe it." Seeing his appearance, although Wang Peng was still worried about being deceived, he could only transfer the money with half confidence. After all, he does need to establish good relationships with the security guards in order to enter the Jiangjing Garden. However, as soon as he transferred the money, Wang Peng anxiously asked, "Can you say it now?" Seeing him so easily transfer the money, Suja felt a bit regretful in his heart for saying it was too little. After all, just like Wang Peng is now, even if he talks a few times more, the other party will still give him. Seeing Suja hesitating to speak, Wang Peng on one side felt a bit angry, but he could only hold it in his heart. Carefully urging, "Suja, why don't you speak quickly?" To be honest, Suja originally intended to give Wang Peng a buffer to prevent him from being scared so quickly. But since the other party doesn't want it, then don't blame him. So Suja spread his hand and said helplessly, "Okay, I'll show my hand. I live in Jiangjing Garden, so the security guard is very respectful to me." This made Wang Peng across from him completely angry and shouted at Suja, "Are you playing with me?" Suja looked up and down at him with some disdain and said, "You're not a beauty, why am I playing with you?" Suppressing the urge to vomit blood, Wang Peng roared again, "So you said you live in Jiangjing Garden, isn't this playing with me?" Suja shrugged and said helplessly, "But I do live in Jiangjing Garden." Wang Peng laughed back angrily and said with a sarcastic expression, "Just you? Still living in Jiangjing Garden?" "That's right," Suja said innocently. Suja is a bit speechless. Why is it so difficult to tell the truth now? Seeing his expression of not seeing the coffin or shedding tears, Wang Peng shook his head and said disdainfully, "If you could live in this Jiangjing Garden, then I would be the real estate developer of Jiangjing Garden." Suja is not angry about Wang Peng's contempt. He immediately smiled and said, "How about we make a bet?" Wang Peng was somewhat surprised and said, "Bet?" Suja smiled slightly, pointed to Jiangjing Garden, and said, "How about betting that I live in this Jiangjing Garden?" Chapter 4. I am poor. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Wang Peng felt that Suja had completely gone crazy. If he really has a house in Jiangjing Garden, how could he owe the bank so much money? He shook his head and looked at Suzhou with a pitiful expression in his eyes. However, there is only a hint of pity. At the thought of Suzhou's appearance in school, Wang Peng's heart was filled with anger. Immediately he said, "Okay, I'll bet you, and if you really live here, I'll call you Dad." "No, how about I call you Grandpa?" Perhaps because he felt that calling him Dad wasn't tough enough, Wang Peng actually promoted Suzhou to a higher level. He needs to take a good look at how Suzhou can argue. Suzhou smiled in his heart and glanced at the security guard who had gone back and forth. Quickly smiling, he said, "Then let's make up our minds. Don't regret it." His serious appearance made Wang Peng's heart beat with excitement. But when he saw the security guard running not far away, his confidence rose again in his heart. Since the security guard can come back, it means he must have come to trouble Suzhou. Otherwise, if Suzhou really lived here, the security guard wouldn't have come running over either. After all, it can be said that one cannot confirm who it is, but the second time it is impossible. It cannot be said that Wang Peng has no brain, but he guessed the wrong direction. The security guard arrived before and after Suzhou, and first looked at Wang Peng in surprise. Then, with a worried expression on his face, he quickly handed the property certificate and door card to Suzhou. "Mr. Su, if you don't have any instructions, then I'll go back first." After speaking, he didn't wait for Suzhou to react, so he ran back. There's no way, when Wang Peng came earlier, he mercilessly drove the other party away. At this moment, seeing Wang Peng and Suzhou standing together, the security guard was very worried that Wang Peng would speak ill of him, so he quickly ran away. Helplessly glancing at the security guard who had run away, Suzhou picked up the property certificate and shook it in front of the already foolish Wang Peng. Then he chuckled and said, "Wang Tuzi, now that the situation is clear, should you fulfill your bet?" Looking at the property certificate in Suzhou's hand, Wang Peng exclaimed in disbelief. "Impossible. This is impossible. How could you possibly live in Jiangjing Garden?" Suzhou gave him a wicked smile and said to him, "Don't worry about what's possible or impossible, grandson. Hurry up and call Grandpa." Originally, Suzhou thought that after graduating with Wang Peng, he wouldn't bring up matters related to school. But he didn't expect that as soon as they met today, Wang Peng would be spewing feces all over his mouth. So, how could Suzhou possibly spare him? Faced with Suzhou's urging, Wang Peng on the other side shook his head repeatedly, ran and kept saying, "False, everything is false, I don't believe it." Later, he took advantage of Suzhou's carelessness and ran back to his car, driving away. This scene filled Suzhou's face with astonishment. "I think this grandson runs quite fast. But if you can run, the monk can't run to the temple. As long as the other party is still in the magic city, Suzhou has a way to make the other party call him Grandpa." Thinking of this, Suzhou's lips showed a wicked smile. Arriving at the entrance of the community, before he could swipe his card, the security guard who had previously slipped away quickly opened the door for him. Perhaps it was to please, or perhaps it was to inquire whether Wang Peng had spoken ill of him. The security guard chuckled as Suzhou passed by and said, "Mr. Su, you're really low-key. Every time you come, you ride this electric bike." Suzhou's heart was slightly stunned, realizing that this was the memory that the system had changed for the other party. So he said half-jokingly, "There's no way, I'm poor and can only ride an electric bike." Poor. The security guard's face was full of strangeness. "You should know that the house Suzhou lives in is worth several billion yuan. If this is poor, what is he who doesn't even have a house?" Seeing his disbelief on his face, Suzhou smiled again and said, "Don't believe it. I still owe the bank 5 million until now." Chapter 5. Beautiful Butler Tian Xinrui. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 5 million. Suzhou's words immediately shocked the security guard across the street, and his chin almost dropped. This wealthy person is different, they owe millions as a minimum. How many years does he have to eat or drink to earn this? Ignoring the still shocked security guard, Suja shook his head and quickly entered the community. In fact, the entire Jiangjing Garden does not occupy a large area, so Suja only arrived at the 8th villa where he lived in a few minutes. However, to his surprise, as soon as he pushed the car open the door of the villa, he found a beautiful woman in professional attire behind him. When the beautiful woman saw Suja pushing an electric car, she was also taken aback. Fortunately, she also knows that some wealthy people have a strange temper and it's not a big deal to like riding an electric bike. So she quickly smiled and said to Suja, "Hello Mr. Su, I am the butler of the villa area. If you need anything, you can come to me." Suja was slightly taken aback and looked at the opponent's chest badge. The name was quite pleasant, called Tian Xinrui. "Okay, I'll let you know if I need it." Suja nodded and prepared to push the electric bike into the villa where the funds were located. Just his reaction made Tian Xinrui outside a bit stunned. She believes that her appearance is not bad, and the homeowners in the community often come to trouble her with nothing to do. But she never expected Suja, who was about her age, to have a look of not wanting to talk to her much. For a moment, Tian Xinrui's heart became slightly curious about Suja. "Mr. Su." Suja stopped and frowned, asking, "Do you have anything else to do?" After all, there were still some remnants of the medicine he had taken in his original body, and at this moment, he only wanted to have a good sleep. Seeing Suja frown, Tian Xinrui's heart suddenly tightened. So he quickly asked, "Mr. Su, can I add your WeChat account?" "No need, I don't want to add strangers' WeChat." Suja didn't hesitate and simply refused. In fact, when faced with a beautiful woman asking for WeChat, he doesn't want to refuse. But there's no way, the second-hand phone from the original body is also too old. In order not to lose face, he could only pretend to be aloof. Seeing Suja refuse directly, Tian Xinrui felt a bit aggrieved in her heart. In the past, when others wanted to add themselves to WeChat, I was not willing to do so. Unexpectedly, things turned upside down today. He volunteered to add WeChat, but Suja refused. Now, some of the things he couldn't figure out went straight into a dead end. I must add Suja's WeChat today. Fortunately, with a movement in her heart, she quickly came up with a brilliant idea. With a slight smile, Tian Xinrui felt as if she was speaking to Suja and said, "Mr. Su, it's like this. I added your WeChat not for anything else, but to get in touch with you in a timely manner, so that no one around you can help you when you need it." To be honest, when Tian Xinrui said these words, she felt a little flushed. She didn't expect to lie one day, and the reason was to get someone else's WeChat. Suja frowned again and finally pretended to be reluctant, telling Tian Xinrui about WeChat. As for asking him to add the other party's WeChat, that's impossible. Tian Xinrui, who received Suja's WeChat signal over there, immediately smiled and said to Suja, "Mr. Su, if you have time, you must pass as soon as possible." Subsequently, Tian Xinrui smiled and left. It's just that the other person's appearance makes Suja feel a bit inexplicable. Do you need this? Chapter 6. Kind Qin Shuyao. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Shaking his head, putting away the electric bike, Suja walked into his villa. However, as soon as he walked in, he was somewhat shocked. Because he didn't expect that his house not only underwent luxurious decoration, but also had all the necessary daily necessities arranged. Especially the exaggerated TV in the living room made him speechless. He hasn't used a TV for many years, it's useless to give him such a big one. Curiously wandering around this villa of over 600 square meters, Suja also had some thoughts in his mind. The living facilities here should be arranged systematically. After all, developers are not fools. How could they have given them such good decoration and furniture? Feeling once again at the vastness of the system, Suja turned into the bedroom. If it weren't for a life-saving system, he would have just laid down when he crossed over. Just before he even got into bed, his old and shabby second-hand phone started screaming hoarsely. Impatiently picking up his phone, Suzhou could only press the answer button when he saw the 3 characters, Bank Qin, on the caller ID. With a strong spirit, Suzhou smiled and asked, Shuyao, are you not busy today? The person on the phone is Qin Shuyao, the deputy manager of China Construction Bank, who is responsible for Suzhou's debts. However, Suzhou's tone of voice stunned Qin Shuyao across from him. She picked up her phone and looked at the number with some disbelief. After confirming that it was Suzhou's phone call, she asked in surprise, Suzhou, why do you feel like you've changed people today? After all, Suzhou was always trembling when facing her before, but today she feels a sense of calmness and contentment. Is this too strange? Faced with Qin Shuyao's question, Suzhou was too lazy to explain anything and directly asked, Shuyao, what's up with you calling? With his reminder, Qin Shuyao across from him suddenly remembered her purpose. Feeling relieved of his previous doubts, he spoke up and said, Suzhou, my friend runs a company and just needs someone to come over and help. Would you like to give it a try? Her words left Suzhou feeling a bit speechless, but it was not for Qin Shuyao, but for his original self. Through memory, he could clearly see that Qin Shuyao across from him was a kind girl who often helped and advised her to face life bravely. You should know that Qin Shuyao is the deputy manager of Magic City Construction Bank. With the other party's high status, there is no need to treat their original identity in this way. Unfortunately, his original identity was not well understood, perhaps due to being tricked by his previous boss Chen Chang, so his vigilance was particularly high, always using the greatest malice to speculate about others. However, this is the original pot, and Suzhou has no intention of carrying it. So he smiled and said to Qin Shuyao, Shuyao, thank you for your kindness, but I really don't need it now. By the way, are you at the bank tomorrow? I'll go find you. Qin Shuyao was not surprised by Suzhou's refusal, after all, Suzhou had always been like this before. However, Qin Shuyao was somewhat surprised when Suzhou said he would go to the bank to find her tomorrow. After all, Suzhou didn't want to see anyone because he was tricked before. After a moment of thought, Qin Shuyao nodded and said, okay, I'll wait for you at the bank tomorrow. In fact, Qin Shuyao originally wanted to ask Suzhou why she came to find her, but later on, she gave up. Because she is still preparing to persuade Suzhou tomorrow, she doesn't want to scare him away now. Chapter 7. I am here to repay the money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After hanging up Qin Shuyao's phone, Suzhou turned off the phone directly to avoid being disturbed again. After all, the original person is truly carefree, and apart from debt collectors, no one cares about him at all. Perhaps that's why the previous boss Chen Chang came to pit him. Sleeping until noon the next day, Suzhou finally got up from the soft and comfortable big bed. And just as he opened his eyes, the sound of the system came from his ear. Ding, please go to Jiangjing Hotel for today's check.in. Recalling the information transmitted by the system and looking at everything in the room, Suzhou laughed excitedly for a while. He understands. All of this is not a dream, he has really developed. After being excited, Suzhou regained his composure. Then he rode on the small electric donkey and arrived at today's first destination calmly. Modu Jianqing. After all, compared to the Jiangjing Grand Hotel, the Magic City Construction Bank where Qin Shuyao is located is obviously closer. Although today is Sunday, there aren't many people in China Construction Bank. After parking the electric car, Suzhou stepped into the door of China Construction Bank. What he didn't expect was that as soon as he walked into the hall, Qin Shuyao noticed him. Suzhou, you have finally arrived. Qin Shuyao across from him seemed to have seen some great savior, running towards Suzhou with a joyful expression on her face. This appearance surprised Suzhou a bit in his heart. Although he knows that Qin Shuyao is a kind-hearted older sister, there's no need to exaggerate like that, right? Besides, he didn't tell Qin Shuyao in advance that he wanted to repay the money today. However, when he saw a young man with a suit and leather collar following behind Qin Shuyao, his eyes lit up and he immediately had a bad guess. On the other hand, the man in a suit who had seen Qin Shuyao suddenly run over to greet Suzhe was very unhappy. After seeing Suzhe's appearance, his face became even more gloomy, almost dripping with ink. With a furrowed brow, the man in the suit pointed to Suzhe and asked Qin Shuyao, "Shuyao, who is he?" However, before Qin Shuyao could speak up, Suzhe, who didn't want to cause trouble, quickly said, "I'm here at the bank to find Shuyao to handle things." Upon hearing that Suzhe was only coming to find Qin Shuyao for business, the man in the suit's expression softened a lot. However, perhaps he was trying to find balance for the worries in his heart just now. Perhaps it was because of Suzhe's attire that he felt a sense of superiority. So the man in the suit snorted coldly and said to Suzhe in a commanding tone, "Do you have the right to speak here? I'm asking Manager Qin." His words immediately made Suzhe furious. But before Suzhe could get angry, Qin Shuyao stood up with a cold face on one side. "Chao Yang, Suzhe is my guest. Please show me your respect when speaking." Seeing Qin Shuyao defending Suzhe so much, Chao Yang immediately became dissatisfied and shouted, "Shuyao, does this kid need you to protect him like this?" After all, from Suzhe's attire, at best, the other party is just a small employee. Both his and Qin Shuyao's identities could easily crush Suzhe, so Chao Yang couldn't understand why Qin Shuyao was so protective of him. Although he looks very handsome, it's not very useful. Qin Shuyao glanced at Chao Yang and said, "Chao Yang, if you don't speak, no one will consider you mute." As soon as these words were spoken, Chao Yang dared not speak up even if he had any objections. After all, the gap between their family and the Qin family was quite significant. Now that Princess Qin of the Qin family is angry, he dare not touch this eyebrow. So he could only snort coldly at Suzhe and honestly stop talking beside him. In fact, Suzhe on the other side originally wanted to get angry, but when Qin Shuyao vented his anger on him, he could only give up. After delaying for so long, Suzhe quickly stated his purpose. "Sister Shuyao, I came to you today to repay the money." Chapter 8, Do You Think It's Zimbabwe? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Repay the money. Qin Shuyao hesitated for a moment before quickly saying, "Suzhe, you don't have to worry so much. I can give you a few days off." Qin Shuyao thought that Suzhe was preparing to repay this month's debt. After all, with a total debt of 5 million, relying on Suzhe's ability, even if he doesn't eat or drink, it will take decades. In order to recover a portion of the debt, the bank agreed with Suzhe to return 90% of the income to the bank every month. But now that Suzhe doesn't have a job, he naturally doesn't have much income. That's why Qin Shuyao generously said she could give him a few days off. Suzhe naturally understood the meaning of Qin Shuyao on the other side, but he didn't come today to pay back 80 cents. He was prepared to pay off everything. So he smiled and said to Qin Shuyao, "Shuyao sister, don't misunderstand. I'm planning to pay off the bank debt this time." "Pay it off?" Qin Shuyao looked at Suzhe with a surprised expression and then said, "Suzhe, don't joke with me. This is 5 million yuan. Why are you still paying it off? You owe the bank 5 million. Before Suzhe could speak, Chao Yang on one side almost burst out laughing. Although this amount of money is nothing to the Chao family, who is Suzhe? Such a poor person, where did the capital owe the bank so much money? Suddenly, Chao Yang's eyes froze, and then he laughed heartily as he pointed at Suzhe and asked, "Aren't you the foolish ex who was tricked by Qindatu? Although 5 million yuan is nothing in the realm of the demon capital, it can't even stir up a wave. The problem is that the reason why Suzhe owes money is too dramatic, and many people don't even understand why there are such foolish people in the world. So Suja's deeds have been widely circulated in the demon capital, and Chao Yang also happened to have heard of this news. Therefore, when I heard that Suja, surnamed Su, owed the bank 5 million yuan, I immediately thought of this matter. On the other hand, seeing that he was acting up again, Shuyao first looked at Suja apologetically, and then angrily said to Chao Yang, can you really talk? Suja is just a little naive. Forgive Shuyao for racking her brains to find such a not-so-good adjective. After all, Suja was really foolish in this matter. Just before Suja, who was feeling depressed, could say something, Chao Yang on the other side began to mock him to his heart's content. Yes, simplicity, that's too simplistic. How many years will it take for you, kid, to pay off 5 million? By the way, why don't you buy a lottery ticket? Maybe you can win 5 million. Ha ha ha. It was Suja's appearance and Shuyao's maintenance that made Chao Yang feel jealous. So when it was discovered that Suja owed the bank so much money, he naturally wanted to vent it properly. What if you look handsome? I will spend my whole life under the shadow of repaying money. Shuyao on one side saw that Chao Yang had started to strike Suja again, and angrily shouted, Chao Yang, please shut up for me. Okay, I'll shut up. Chao Yangshan nodded at Shuyao, while also proudly looking at Suja. Even if Shuyao continues to defend you, what can she do? I can't let Shuyao save you with so much money, can I? Shuyao naturally saw Chao Yang's proud gaze, gave him a fierce glare, and quickly said to Suja again, Suja, don't be too sad, I will help you find a way. Shuyao was just saying this, after all, it was 5 million. Although the Qin family has a considerable influence, it is only on the official level. Therefore, it is feasible for her to help Suja introduce some work or delay his loan for a period of time, but it is simply impossible to help him solve the problem. After all, even though she is obsessed with Suja's beauty, she dare not joke about the future of the Qin family. So Shuyao was very clear in her heart that she couldn't be too deeply involved with such a handsome younger brother as Suja. On one side, Suja felt a little touched. Regardless of whether others were really helpful or not, it was already rare to comfort him with a few words at this time. With a slight smile, Suja quickly spoke up and said, Sister Shuyao, I really came to repay the money today. I have paid everything back. Just as Suja finished speaking, Chao Yang over there immediately became suspicious. Pay it all back. Huh, do you think this is Zimbabwe? You're not afraid to talk big and break the cowhide. Chapter 9. How much money is in my card? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Subsequently, there was no waiting for any reaction from Suja. Chao Yang quickly rushed to Shuyao and said, Shuyao, this kid is just a mouthful of broken train goods. Don't be fooled by him. Although Chao Yang was blinded by jealousy, it must be said that he also had some wisdom. After Suja finished his big talk, he immediately kindly advised Shuyao, and he didn't even need to add fuel or vinegar. Sure enough, hearing Chao Yang's words still had an effect, and a hint of disappointment flashed in Shuyao's eyes as she looked at Suja. After all, the reason why she came to help Suja was because she felt that he was innocent and foolish, so she felt a bit heartbroken. But now that Suja has turned into a talkative train runner, of course she will be disappointed. Although he didn't notice Shuyao's expression, Suja on one side had already been infuriated by Chao Yang's repeated mockery and sarcasm. He looked at Chao Yang with a cold expression and said, what if I can really come up with 5 million? Unexpectedly, upon hearing Suja's words, Chao Yang across from him burst out laughing as if he had heard some big joke. Ha, can you come up with 5 million? If you can come up with 5 million, I'll call you, Dad, on the spot. Suja snorted coldly, then don't regret it. Seeing that Suja was still stubborn, Chao Yang looked at him arrogantly and then said, don't worry, Chao Yang keeps his word and will never regret it. Since someone took the initiative to call him Dad, Suja naturally wouldn't miss this opportunity, let alone he had already wanted to teach Chao Yang a lesson on the other side. Although he never provoked the other party from beginning to end, they bit him like a wild dog and didn't let him go. Taking out a bank card casually, Su Zhichong said to Qin Shuyao, "Shuyao, go and see how much money is in this card." Qin Shuyao did not take the bank card, but instead frowned and sighed at Suja, saying, "Suja, stop making trouble and hurry back." She is too disappointed with Suja now. At first, she thought Suja was just a simple handsome young man, so she thought of helping him casually. She never expected that Suja would also be a smooth-tongued person, knowing the face but not the heart. She just felt sorry for Suja, that's why she wanted him to leave here, so as not to embarrass him later. Qin Shuyao's reaction left Suja speechless. "Why can't we just take a look at our bank card?" Helplessly, he could only take the card to the counter. Suja's actions made Qin Shuyao's heart even more disappointed. I helped him with good intentions, but to my surprise, the other party showed no mercy. However, there was still a hint of sympathy in his heart, so he quickly followed over to avoid feeling ashamed when Suja was ridiculed by Chao Yang in the future. Unlike her, Chao Yang on one side followed suit with a joyful mood. Because he wants to see how the other party will argue when Suja's balance is revealed. Especially at the thought that Suja was about to be stepped on by him, the strong sense of satisfaction made him almost burst into laughter. It was precisely Qin Shuyao's actions towards Suja just now that made Chao Yang's jealousy almost twisted. Although noon is approaching, there aren't many people in the bank either. In addition, with Qin Shuyao as the deputy manager present, even if some counters are lined up, another window will be opened. The little sister inside the counter was surprised by what Qin Shuyao and her group were doing in a grand manner, but she also knew that it was not something she should ask. "Help me check how much money is in the card." Suja handed the bank card to the staff across from him. In fact, he was also quite uneasy because he didn't activate the account receipt reminder, so he didn't know if the system had transferred the money in. Of course, even if he lost, Suja didn't suffer any losses. After all, when the two of them made a bet just now, he didn't say what would happen if they lost their bank card and had no money. So at most, it's just embarrassing, which is nothing for Suja, who has thick skin. The little sister across from her was surprised when she heard Suja's words. "You can also check the ATM outside the balance. Do you need to come back to the counter?" Of course, she only hinted a little inwardly, after all, the deputy manager is still outside. After a quick operation, Suja entered the password and glanced at the balance displayed on the computer. She smiled and rushed out, saying, "Sir, the balance in your card is 1." At this point, she suddenly paused for a moment, then looked at the computer screen again with a ghostly appearance. Chapter 10. There is 1 billion in the card. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the appearance of the bank staff outside, Chao Yang felt uneasy and uneasy. In an impatient mood, he even shouted directly inside, "Hurry up and say, how much is it?" After confirming several times, the staff inside finally spoke to Suja and said, "Hello sir, there is a total balance of 10,356 yuan and 30 cents in the card." In fact, working in a bank, she has seen a balance of 1 billion yuan before. But the problem is that a regular card like Suja has a balance of 1 billion, which she has never seen before. After all, with so much balance in the bank card, it has long been upgraded to a gold card. That's why she looked like she had seen a ghost before. It's really unbelievable. Outside, listening to the balance reported by the staff, Chao Yang shouted in disbelief. "Impossible, this is impossible. How could this poor kid possibly have 1 billion? Did you read it wrong?" Chao Yang's shouting made the staff inside feel depressed. Don't slander people out of thin air. The deputy manager is still here. Suppressing the depression in his heart, the staff member smiled and said to Chao Yang, "Sir, I didn't read it wrong. There is indeed 1 billion in the card. Qin Shuyao on the side frowned as she saw that Chao Yang still wanted to inquire about her subordinates. She quickly stood up and said, "All right, Chao Yang, this is a bank, not your home." Later, no matter how ugly Chao Yang's face was, Qin Shuyao looked at Suzha with a curious expression on her face. "Suzha, where did you get so much money?" As the deputy manager responsible for coordinating with Suzha, Qin Shuyao believes that she has thoroughly investigated Suzha's identity and background. But how did this 1 billion balance come out today? At this moment, she had completely forgotten how she had disappointed Suzha just now. For her question, Suzha naturally couldn't answer it. After all, although he knew that the money rewarded by the system must have legitimate channels, the problem was that he had no memory, so he couldn't explain why he wanted to. With a slight smile, Suzha quickly rushed to Qin Shuyao and said, "Shuyao, don't worry about where this money comes from. Now, let's quickly repay the money I owe to the bank." Listening to Suzha's words, Qin Shuyao was about to turn around but suddenly stopped. With a hint of embarrassment on her face, she said to Suzha, "Suzha, why don't you hurry to pay back this money for now? Let's talk about it in a few years." "How many years will it take?" Suzha pondered for a moment before thinking about why Qin Shuyao said so. Previously, the bank was worried that he wouldn't be able to repay the money, so they asked him to use 90% of his monthly income for repayment. But now that he has the ability, he naturally feels much more at ease. Of course, the most important thing is that Suzhitsai owed the bank less than a month. Now that he hasn't even generated interest yet, if he repays it now, wouldn't the bank be working in vain? So Qin Shuyao from across the street looked embarrassed and advised Suzha to return it in a few years. After a moment of thought, Suzha refused. "Shuyao, I want to repay the money as soon as possible." Qin Shuyao across from her was a bit disappointed, but she didn't say anything. After all, she was only considering the issue as the deputy manager of the bank just now. Since Suzha refused, she naturally wouldn't say this again. "Okay, please wait a little while, I'll go get the contract now." Nodding, Qin Shuyao quickly ran back to her office. Not long after she left, Suzha looked at Chao Yang next to her. With a curled corner of his mouth, Suzha spoke up and said, "Chao Yang, according to the gambling agreement, should you call me Dad now?"